All right. Welcome to the Stronger, Deeper Marriage Show, where we help couples build marriages filled with peace, purpose, and passion. I'm your host, Lucille Reddic, also known as the Harmony Expert. And today's conversation is about the little things that speak love, the daily choices that help your spouse feel seen, valued, and deeply supported. Because let's be honest, big moments matter, but it's the small, consistent actions that truly build a lasting marriage. I'm joined as always by my amazing co-host and wealth and wellness coach, Patty Hall.
Hello, everyone. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. I'm so glad that you're here. Today's conversation is powerful because we're talking about what it really takes emotionally, spiritually, and physically to stay connected when life gets hard.
It would be good if I had the right script. I don't think I have the right script, but that's okay.
Well, I have what you sent me, so I'm trying to stay on script.
We're gonna have to cut that part out. Uh,
You want me to go again? Or
go ahead, continue. I'm gonna pull this up.
hello, everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. Today's conversation is powerful because we're talking about what it really takes emotionally, spiritually, and physically to stay connected when life gets hard.
Hold on. Here we go. All right. Today, we're honored to welcome pastor, author, speaker, and coach Dustin Rivenbark. Dustin has been married to his wife, Aimee, for 19 years. Together, they've walked through seasons of distance, child loss,
Mm.
addiction recovery, and now health challenges.
Mm.
And yet, they continue to choose love, faith, and partnership. Dustin, welcome to the Stronger, Deeper Marriage Show.
Wow, 19 years. Hey, listen, let me tell you something. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Lucille. Thank you, Miss Pata. Just for the opportunity to come on your show and share. I love your heartbeat. I love what you guys are doing here, helping marriages. That's the building blocks, right? That's the building blocks for strong communities. And so just thank you for having me on. Look forward to the conversation.
Oh, fantastic. Well, did I say everything they wanted? Did I like for people to interject what they want to interject? I know you gave me your bio and everything, but is there anything else that I missed out on that you might want the audience to know about you?
We'll break it down. We'll get into it. I'll kind of just filter those things out through the conversation. So I'm good.
Okay, then. Well, fantastic. Well, after 19 years of marriage, what moment best captures the heart of your journey with Aimee?
Wow, that's a really good question. So, I would have to say, a pivotal moment was, when we went through the loss of our daughter, Callie Grace. But that was one of the hardest seasons of our lives. But it was also, I mean, it was one of, you guys know that marriage is hard. Marriage
Yes.
is tough. 2 years into our marriage, we actually signed divorce papers. I worked offshore on drilling for 10 and a half years. From the beginning of our marriage, in the first 10 and a half years of it, when you look at being on a drilling rig for 2 weeks on, 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, we missed the first 10 years. 5 years of the first 10 years of our marriage I spent away from home, and that was difficult. And so we've overcome a lot of challenges. I would like to say that some of those challenges was a defining moment in our marriage. But now, Miss Lucille, I want to fast forward that to me being able to use my voice. So I am a speaker, and I speak to, college campuses, schools, conferences all over the country. And my wife is an amazing wife. We have two beautiful kids. They homeschool, and they get to travel with us, and we get to go, and we get to do and experience. I would say the moments that we're living in now is probably the pivotal moment, of the marriage. Looking back at all of the trials and obstacles that we've overcome is just fuel to live right now, if that makes sense.
I love that. And I think about when you talk about the obstacles, because you said, we all been married, and we didn't go into that at the beginning. I've been married, just celebrated 41 years of marriage. Pata, I think she's coming up on, is it 39, Pata? She may not can hear me.
Yeah.
She's having some technical difficulties. But if I'm correct, I think that's 39. So you don't get to be.
All right, guys, I just lost my volume.
Okay. You don't get these years in and not have some obstacles. So it just reminded me that sometimes we think things are difficult, or in a difficult season, we think things are hard. And then we look back and we say, you know what? That was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yes. Yes. I'm a living testimony. When I grew up, I just want to take you back just a piece. Challenges, obstacles. That's not new for me. Chances
Mhm.
are for the listener, it's not new for them. Why? Because we live in a broken, fallen world ever since Genesis chapter 3. Miss Lucille, and obstacles are everywhere. But it's how we rise. It's how we fight. It's how we get through these obstacles that make all the difference in the world. When I was young, my mom was addicted to drugs, and she kept us moving around a lot. I lived in over 19 different homes growing up through my
19?
teenage years.
Oh, wow.
I went to 7 different schools, and I struggled with identity a lot. And in that, I would have to say early on in my marriage that bled over a lot of
Mhm.
distrust, a lot of things that I had gone through. And there were many areas that me and my wife both, we needed to mature in.
Mhm.
I think nowadays too many people live like this. We have everything that we want at the push of a button. And guess what? If I don't like it, I can just throw it away, and I can buy another one and have it express shipped, and it'll be here probably by the afternoon. And I think statistically speaking, when it comes to marriages, Miss Lucille, 50% of marriages fail in the United States. That is
Yeah.
staggering. But I understand that marriage is a lifetime commitment, and maturity and growth is what it's all about, not perfection, but facing those challenges with the mindset of I've been here before, and
Mhm.
we can get through this.
And I think that's what's so, well, I'll just speak for myself. I didn't come from a home where I saw a husband and wife working through challenges. My parents divorced. I'm adopted, so I lost a parent, and then the parents that got me, they divorced. I want to say right before I got ready to go into third grade. Now I had aunts and uncles and stuff like that, but for the day to day, I didn't see a husband and wife working it out. So my vision of what I thought marriage was like maybe the fairy tales or what I saw on the movies. Everybody, you kiss and you ride off into the sunset and you live happily ever after, right? Well, when the
Right.
tough times came, I was like, well, wait a minute, where's my happily ever after?
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
so I think helping people to have a right perspective that the challenges is normal. That's just part of it. That's part of life, and that's part
Mhm.
of marriage, is that you're putting two people who are had different upbringings, different thought patterns, just different, and you're trying to marry those two together to walk out life and purpose together.
No,
So
you're exactly right. And when I look on one hand with my mom, my parents were divorced early on. My father was always in my life, just a great man. who worked offshore, which meant, that, he was gone a lot throughout my life, half my life. He was gone and in the ocean, still present, but working, and stuff like that. But I would watch, the difference between the two. My mother with never finding a successful marriage, and then my father and my stepmother, who love each other and have done very well, and all of that. And my grandparents, man, I had an amazing set of grandparents that really stepped in and challenged me as a young man. Even though I would live wild and wayward, I always had an amazing set of grandparents, and and I got to see it. But I always gravitated towards my mother because of my young immaturity. I wanted to go where the freedom was. And, I think that what that did inside of me was just birth a lot of inconsistencies that me and my wife really struggled on. And then she's got, her side of the story of how she was raised and the things she was exposed to, just like you mentioned,
Yeah.
two separate people coming together in unity. It is tough, and 2 years into our marriage, man, it just broke. Me working offshore, alcohol and addiction had gotten a hold of my wife, and the way we lived and the people we hung around and all of that. It just finally broke, and we signed divorce papers. We were getting ready to turn them in, and be done with this thing and move on. But God had
Mm.
a better plan. Um, and my wife became pregnant, and we decided to give this thing one more go. And man, let me just tell you, it was it was that was probably the turning point, was our first child. You, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's not always the fixer. We had
Yeah.
so much. See, I think a lot of marriages too, a lot of women especially. If I could just have his child, I could fix him. You know what I mean? And all of this, and vice versa maybe. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just not the case. We had so much work to do, but we realized after that we had signed a covenant, not only with each other but with God. This was the person that God put in my life, and I was committed to seeing it through to the end. And that led us on a trajectory of growth that will never complete until the day the Lord takes us home.
Well, let me take you back just a minute then. Okay, so you said at 2 years into the marriage, y'all were ready to call it quits.
Yes.
And can you, if you can, and maybe you can't, but can you go back to your mindset during that time? Was it were you living for the Lord at that time? Because you
No.
mentioned that you realized that it was a covenant, so you weren't living for the Lord at that
No.
time. Okay, but what was your mindset that made you just dig in and say, well, let's just give this one more, or you know, whatever. Just share what your mindset was during that time.
Um,
Yeah.
So when I go back, there was a lot of brokenness in my life, in my heart. There was, like I said, a lot of alcohol, a lot of pills. There was a lot of there was infidelity, and it was two young kids. We got married when we were babies. Two young kids running wild. And it wasn't until we were really about to call it quits, and I realized in that moment, Miss Lucille, I love her.
Mhm.
I loved her in that moment, and I did not want to lose that,
Mhm.
because honestly, I had battled some insecurity in my life with my own mother and the way that I was raised, and always losing a home, where I was always losing friends, moving around. I was always losing, and there was a part of me that was desperate to hold on, that was just desperate to not lose,
Mhm.
in this thing. And I loved her so much. And when I said that, it was a covenant that we had made before God. These were things that were being said to me in the moment that I really didn't understand, but there was something inside of me that knew it to be true. Now, I was
Mhm.
not following Jesus in that moment. It wouldn't be
Okay.
until, years later that I would come to know exactly what that was, right? But
Mhm.
in that moment, God was there, and I just know see it all over the season looking back. But I think the defining thing in that moment was knowing that I loved her, Miss Lucille, and if I loved her, I can forgive. We can overcome, and we can move forward. And I think she saw the same thing. And we decided to work this thing out.
Okay, well now you mentioned that you guys were young. What was your age when you got married?
Gosh, we were 19 and 20, 19 and 21. I was 21, she was 19.
19.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I
that is pretty
understand.
young.
Yep, I was 20 when we got married, and my husband was 23. So I understand that. And we
Yes.
had we had a son before we actually got married, so I relate and understand all of that.
Yes. Yes.
I love that. I think I was 20, 22, going on 23
Okay.
when I got married. So,
Yep.
all right. So, let me take you back. You mentioned that you weren't living for the Lord at that time, but you said you were hearing that marriage was a covenant. Did you have
Mhm.
someone speaking life into your marriage, into you and
Yes.
into your marriage?
My grandmother, and let me tell you what, my grandfather in that moment, became a major giant
Mm,
in my life. My dad, my stepmother, there were different people that would speak, in the season, and fortunately for us, we were trying to listen.
mm.
Made a lot of mistakes, Miss Leo. Made a lot of mistakes.
Yep, we all did.
But man, I'm looking back, and there's an old song, an old country song, and it goes, I tip my hat to the keeper of the stars. He sure knew what he was doing when he joined these two hearts.
Wow.
And it was just something about her that I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life, and I didn't want to let this go. And there was something about me where it was like, okay, she's pregnant. We've signed papers. We separated for like almost 8 months. Still kind of talking here and there. And it was like, all right, one more shot. Let's go for it. And
But
and
like
that
you
was
said, the bottom line is like you said that you loved her. You didn't know anything else, but you knew that you loved her
right.
and you didn't want any more losses and you wanted to spend the rest of your life with her. So I
That's right.
think that's monumental, even though you didn't understand the marriage covenant. I
Hmm.
did, none of us did when you get married that young. You just don't.
Yep.
And it's something that you have to learn no matter how many times people tell you or preach it to you or try to explain it to you until you actually go through that and you say, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is what this is." But it's great to hear that you said, "I didn't know anything else. I knew I loved her. I did not want any more loss, and I did not want to live my life without her." So
Yeah.
that helped propel you through to get to that other side, and that's
That's
just
right.
great. Yeah.
And I love that. But it sounds like you had to be vulnerable at that point too. Because sometimes
Yeah.
we can have that pride. The Bible said pride goeth before the fall, right? So we can have that
Yes.
pride. Well, I'm not gonna put my heart out, and then maybe she might step on my heart, or he might step on my heart. If I show too much of my hand, if you
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying. So
Yes,
it
ma'am.
sounds like you had to be really vulnerable in that moment and just say, look, I love you. I don't want to lose you. However, speak to that if you can.
I wanna tell any man that might be listening, I wanna tell any woman, man, I went through a roller coaster of emotions. Um, I made a lot of mistakes verbally. I made a lot of mistakes, um, you know, in all of that. But there were so many moments where we sat down and we were exactly that. We were vulnerable with one another. You know, the moment that we allowed our true self to be exposed to one another, I think in those moments we began to see we really want the same thing. Okay? We really want the same thing. Now, for men, we might call it pride, for women, whatever that may be. But I think the end of the day, um, we were letting our emotions get in the way. We wanted, a good solid marriage. We wanted effective communication. We wanted to raise kids in a good home. We did not know it was a godly home like that. We didn't, I mean, we knew that existed, but we were sure we're not living that. But we knew we wanted to raise kids at that time in a good home. And so we were just searching. We were just searching for freedom, for relief. For her, it was, she went to rehab, for alcohol and addiction. And I stood right there, and we walked her through that. And that would be, one of many, many challenges that we would have over the next, however many years.
Yeah, I love that. So what I hear you saying to the audience and to all of us here is you just got to keep fighting. You just got
Yes.
to keep fighting
Yes.
through it. Just to be determined that you guys wanted what your why. I would say what your why was. You wanted to raise a family in a together home, and you guys were going to try to stick together in order to do that. And
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if that's one of the pieces that might be missing, young people, because I'm gonna tell you the reason why I wanted to do this podcast and I wrote my book and everything was that I worked in children's ministry at church for a number of years. As a matter of fact, I'm back working in children's ministry now. And some of my kids that came through our Awana program, I see them as adults now, and or I've been to their weddings, beautiful weddings and everything. And then I see them at the grocery store, at the movies later on in a couple of years, and I say, how are you and your husband, or how are you and your wife doing? And then they tell me they're divorced, and and it just hurts my heart. And I was like, well, wait a minute, that was just 2 years ago. You don't need to see the hard
Right. 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 You know.
I think a key thing too that you got with that you said, Dustin, was exposure. And it's very hard for us as humans and individuals to totally expose ourselves to another individual, even though we love that individual. I often think of when you said exposure, I thought about that year in and year out. It's just like you take off all your clothes and you're on the top of this mountain, you're freezing, you're exposed to the elements, and you're doing it intentionally. No one has made you do it. Your clothes are right there, your coat's right there, you can put it on, but you're exposed. And it's so hard to rip all of that off and allow yourself to be exposed to another woman or another man, or because you don't know what they're going to do with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my mentors, he was talking about exposure in a different way. You may know Jamal King or have heard him
Yeah.
in communities and stuff like that. But
Mhm.
but Jamal, he says all the time, he says your level of exposure determines your level of success. And what he's referring to is the types of things that you see and are exposed to, will determine what you reach for. You didn't even know things were possible. I say that in this same wheelhouse right here that we're talking to. In a marriage, your level of exposure what the realness, the rawness, what you're willing to expose and be vulnerable and be naked on that mountaintop, right? And whatever you're willing to expose, but also what you're willing to expose yourself to getting therapy, to getting help, to letting people speak into your life, to not letting pride get in the way. Your level of exposure determines your level of success. I think that's a great word for right here.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
is, that is. And it takes me back, y'all, to um during the first 7 years of my marriage, I kept trying to get out of it. Every few years, maybe every 6 months or so, I'd say, this is not gonna work. We gonna have to separate and everything. And my mother was living with us. It wasn't something we could just do right away. We needed to plan if we were gonna do something like that, right? And I was like, you need to get a place to live, and I don't want you to have to go, live with your parents or whatever. So we wanted to do this, and I wanted to do this in a decent way. And
Yes.
he'd say, okay. And then he wouldn't do any of this.
Right, right.
He changed whatever it was. He'd start working on whatever it was I was fussing about or whatever. And then we gained some more time. But in exposure, um, I was open to the feedback. The Lord placed some amazing women in my life. One was a very close co-worker, and I would go to work and I'd say, "You're not gonna believe what Donnie did today," and blah 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 blah. And I'd just be fuming mad. And she was a little short white woman with a high pitched voice. Now,
Yeah.
let's look at this the right way. And I'm like, I don't want to look at this the right way.
Right, right.
He getting on my nerves. I'm sick of him.
Yep.
But she made me sit back, and she spoke life into my marriage, and she would give me a different perspective on how to look at it, because I thought my way was the right way. I'm perfect. This guy is a mess. Not to find out that I'm the mess.
Right. Right.
But see, that goes to what Dustin was just talking about, of allowing yourself to be exposed. So you allowed yourself to be exposed and to be open to her feedback.
Yes,
Yep.
I was open to her feedback. And I would say, I vetted her properly, because we can't really expose ourselves to the wrong people, because some people will not speak life into our marriage.
Listen,
Go ahead,
and
Dustin.
I speak to middle schoolers, high schoolers all over the country. We talk about that. Who has your ear, man? That is important. You need life givers, truth holders, people who will tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to
What you
hear.
want to
Not
hear.
what you want to
Exactly.
hear.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and when I look at this, I want to encourage somebody who might be struggling in their marriage. I want to speak to someone who might need to do some work and some healing inside of whatever's going on. I want to say to purpose the pain. Like, understand this, that if you guys will if you guys will buckle down and do the hard thing, if you will do the hard thing, you will see God move from this. Years later, after we overcame what was certain a divorce, okay?
Mhm.
After we overcame that, I lost my career in the field of over 10 and a half years. I thought I lost my identity once again, triggered by a young boy who had struggled with identity his whole life, thought he found it on a drilling rig, worked that climbing that corporate ladder for 10 and a half years, and the ladder pulled out from under him. I found myself on a 20-acre farmhouse, you know, no job. My wife was pregnant again. And suddenly we found out the baby, Callie Grace, wasn't going to survive. And so we're faced with a question of, like, okay, early termination, abortion. Do we carry this thing as long as God would sustain the baby? And all of these fears, all of these questions. And I remember me and my wife looking at each other and say, baby, we've been in the fire before. And there's no one else I'd rather stand in the fire in with than you. And it's in those moments. Listen,
Send chills.
I'm telling you. So 2 years before I left the oil field, I was led to Jesus by a man named Reggie Washington. My wife was going to church, And she was led to Christ. I was led to Christ. We started going to church together. I started feeling called into ministry. Everything was shaping up for God's timing. And we're in the middle of the hardest season of our life, yet we stood 10 toes down saying, I'm going to choose to trust God in this moment. I know what this is.
Yeah.
We've been here before.
Yes. Oh,
Wow.
I love that. I love that.
Yes.
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 You
Yes.
say we have
Yes.
been here
And
before. And that
right.
goes back to what we were talking about those difficult times. We think when we're in the moment of a difficult time that, oh, this is just terrible or whatever. And then you can look back and say, oh, this was what I needed in order to
Mm,
strengthen me for what's to
mm.
come.
But
But
like you said, if you just need God in your life, so even though you can't see that you're gonna get through those moments, you just
And
gotta trust in God and have faith and just keep pushing and pressing so you can
exactly.
get to the other side.
And when I talk about who has your ear, it was so, man, yes, God was roaring. There was a lion during that time. Because I was weak. I was weak. Listen to me. Standing beside my daughter's casket, hardest thing I've ever done, next to when my mother passed away just a few months later from a drug overdose.
Mm.
But standing by their casket in my weakness, I'm the strongest I've ever been. And I'm gonna tell you, the power of the Holy Spirit is real. He is alive and well and moving. But I also want to tell you, we were talking about who has your ear, who's speaking life over you. We had strong brothers, strong sisters around us in Christ at that time. We had been led to Jesus, going to church. We had a season of pain and loss. And I remember in that hospital room when the doctor, all right, came and the nurses came to get my wife and wheel her to the OR. We were 1 month. We decided to carry Callie Grace as long as the Lord would sustain her, and we were
mm,
praying for a miracle, but trusting even if we will not waver. And as we had to go to that hospital room when Callie Grace passed away, 1 month shy of full term, um, when they opened that our door in the hospital room to wheel her out, my best friend in the world was standing right there at that door. I
mm,
didn't know he was there. I didn't know we had friends and family that had lined up down that hall. We had no clue. And
mm,
and we opened that door to wheel out, and he was standing there in a moment. He didn't have to say anything. He didn't have to say a word. He just stood there, and I fell into his arms, and I soaked his
mm.
shoulder, weeping on him, and he never said a word. His mere presence said it all. So I'm telling you, who has your ear in a marriage? It means everything.
Mm.
I can hear the emotion still in your voice.
Yes.
That the loss of your daughter, Callie Grace, that was
Mm.
a profound tragedy.
Sure.
Mm.
But if you can think back, how has that experience impacted your marriage and your faith?
Whew. So I get to share Callie Grace. I get to share her name on every platform that I stand on. I get, yes, and people are touched by her story, her brief moment of life on this earth. Um, Listen, man, no man, biologically speaking, should have to stand in a hospital room and hold his daughter's lifeless body in a room,
Mm.
and it changed me. It,
Mm,
Mm.
it that moment changed me on the inside. And I look back and I ask myself, did it change me for the better? Did it change me for the worse? Would you go back and change anything? Of course, I would want my life with my daughter, but I just see what she's done with her brief life. And I'm
mm,
like, man, there have been lives shifted. There have been marriages shifted. There has been middle schoolers who have been deeply impacted. There have been moments where young girls, young boys have been led to Christ, centered around these stories. And it's like, man, it changed me. But
Mm-hmm.
now I know that it changed me to believe that God can do anything. I believe
Mm-hmm.
that God can do anything. If he can take my broken moment and set me even more on fire and passionate for him, oh my gosh. I just wish people could understand this about their marriage.
You're
If
right.
if you would let God take this broken moment and you will let him heal that, you will not
Mm-hmm.
only overcome, but listen to me, you will thrive. That's what I want people to know.
Oh, I love that. So
Wow.
I don't know if you have any practical steps on the in the midst of grief and hardship that you could give some practical tips or something to help people stay connected. You and Aimee stayed connected instead of growing apart. And there are stories out there, lots of them, where the loss like that can break up a marriage because one
Mhm.
spouse may be blaming the other spouse, you didn't do this right or whatever. Um, for whatever it don't have to make sense is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
do you have anything that you could offer that was helpful for you and Aimee that brought you guys stay together?
Absolutely. So shortly after my wife and we lost our baby, through some moments of grief, I felt like I wanted to go in. We were going I wanted to go into youth ministry.
Mm.
And our local church gave me a shot and go into youth ministry. That would be the hardest year of my life because not only did we lose Callie Grace, but I would then lose my mother to a drug addiction and my grandmother to the final stages of dementia. And it left
Mm.
me broken, hurt, confused, uncertain, but still certain. You know what I mean? And it
Mhm.
just left a lot of gray area and foggy brain. And I remember my pastor. He came to me and he asked me to preach a Sunday morning service. Now, for a youth pastor, this is the holy grail. Okay, like everybody wants to do well and
Everybody want to be
preach.
there on Sunday morning.
This is the one,
In the
right? This is
big
my
church.
shot. Yeah, and so I was going to preach Sunday morning service. We had about between the couple of services like 700 people. It was a sizable sizable first church, and I had writer's block. Man, I sat down. I couldn't think. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know what to write. I didn't know what to say, Miss
Mm.
Lucille. And in that moment, Pata, my wife said something that I'll never forget. She said, Dustin, you have to get back to the basics. And I paused in
Mm,
that moment and I said, okay, what are the basic foundations of my faith, of my belief? I truly believe that if you believe it, you can achieve it, right? But that's
mhm,
big, that's bold, that's
Mhm.
broad. What are the basics of that? And I just want to remind you that God sees you, that God knows you, that God loves you, and that he's for you. If you
Mm.
will remember these basics, we can get through anything, okay? In your marriage, if you guys will be open with one another, understand the basics of marriage. We want the same thing. We
mhm,
want a thriving relationship and intimacy with one another, and we want to raise a good family. Okay?
mhm,
Those are the basics. Now, let's get out of our own way. God sees you, God knows you, God loves you, and He is for you. If we
Mm.
can apply those four basics to our marriage, now there's many different ways that we can do that. Okay. Now it could be starting to go to church, right? Surrendering our life to him first and foremost. It could be
Mhm.
small groups, it could be counseling, but whatever it is, I want you to understand the triangle. Imagine I call it the love triangle. Okay. For
mm. I
those
love that.
of
Love
yes,
triangle.
for those of you who may be listening and can't see me, all right, try to picture two dots, all right, at the bottom, okay? And then try to picture at the top of that triangle is the one, one dot, and it forms a triangle, okay? Now, between a husband and a wife, all right, there is a distance, there is a space at the bottom left of the triangle and the bottom right of the triangle, okay? There is a space between a husband and a wife when they first meet. That is two separate lives coming together. But if we will keep Christ at the top of that triangle, if we will go back to the basics and seek to know Jesus, all right, what happens is we begin to go the direction that Christ has laid out for our lives, and we're pursuing Him while pursuing one another. What is happening to that gap? The love triangle is coming together as we are on that road, all right, and we are headed towards Jesus. That gap is closing in, all right? If you're in your most brokest, hurting moment right now, go back to the basics. You want the same thing. Get out of your way. Pursue Christ in this moment. Let Him set the standard. I love Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, one of the best ever basketball players to ever play the game. But Kobe Bryant, whenever he got through adolescence, all the people in the neighborhood would take that basketball goal and they would lower it. They would lower it so they were young, so they could dunk, so they could shoot, and they could do all of that stuff. Kobe Bryant refused. If you wanted Kobe to play, it had to be at the standard because he knew where he was going, and he wasn't going to waste his time with anything that wasn't the standard. So get back to the basics. God sees you, He knows you, He loves you, and He's for you. I promise you, if we'll seek Him with everything we've got, man, your marriage will begin to grow, blossom, and ultimately thrive.
Amen. Amen. Dustin, thank you for sharing so openly, and thank you for giving that example. Like, even though you were going through all that grief, the losses that you were going through, you were still able and wanted to pour into others. You know, a lot of times we are consumed by our loss and our grief, and you had suffered loss after loss after loss in a very short amount of time, but still you wanted to pour into others.
Yeah.
I love that.
So I applaud you for that. And that's just monumental, because sometimes what do? We close ourselves out to everyone. And you wanted to pour into strangers.
Yeah.
You wanted to make a difference, especially in our young people.
Yes.
And that just speaks volumes. That just touched me, and just I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. I love this, because sometimes we just can't see through any of that. And you not only saw through it, you put yourself first and foremost.
Yes. And by
wow.
by being obedient and doing the hard things, God shows up in ways we can never imagine. Yes, I wanted to serve those young folks, but let me tell you what, they taught me so much, Miss Pata. They taught me so much, Miss Lucille. After losing our daughter and going into ministry, I would then, like I told you, a few months later, I would lose my mother. And I remember when she was in the when they had her in the ICU after the drug overdose and everything was kind of going downhill, and we knew that this was not good. I remember getting a phone call in that hospital room. The phone rang in the ICU, and I picked up the phone and I said hello, and they said, "Hey, can we speak to Dustin?" We had a few people in the room. I said, "This is me." She said, "Dustin, you need to get out here into the waiting room." And I said, "Why?" She said, "We don't know what's happening." She said, "There is a mob of people in this waiting room, and they said they're here to see you." And I didn't understand. I hung that phone up, and I went
Mm-hmm.
out to the ICU, and there stood my students,
Oh.
my students in that room who had heard. And I remember as I walked up to them, I was trying to smile and
Mm-hmm.
be life in one of my hardest moments. And one of our students came and put his arm around me. And then they all just huddled up. And it showed me the power of pouring, the outpouring, the
Mm.
golden rule, do unto others as you would
Yeah.
have them do unto you. You will be shocked at the people that will support you. You will be shocked at the people that will walk with you through life, the people who will love you if you will just, man, if you will just be obedient, if you will just serve, if you will
Mm-hmm.
just do. When we started serving in our church, dude, our relationship went to a whole nother level.
Yeah, that's a cheat code. Just showing up to church just to be there.
Mhm.
Um, has its place, and everybody should start there. But when you really can get involved, my pastor used to say, "Are we being like turkeys? We just coming in and taking in all of the worship, all of the prayer, all of this, and then we
Right?
waddle out like fat little turkeys."
Like
No, we
fat
want to
turkeys.
serve in ministry and have
Exactly.
that outpouring. I love that. I wrote it down. I've been taking notes. Have that
Mm-hmm.
outpouring go back. And the thing about it is it comes back all the time. It comes
Mm.
back to us all the time. Um, but I love what you said about the basics. You said that he sees us, he knows us, he loves us, and he is for
For us.
you. Is
Yes.
it for us or for you? I wrote down for
For
you.
us. He is for you. Yeah.
He is for
He
you.
sees
Okay.
you, knows you, loves you, and is
And
for
he's
you.
for you. Got you. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay. Let's go to this will be my last question for you, and then Pat is going to talk to you about some health and wellness questions. Um, but navigating the distance, the child loss, the alcoholism, the loss of your mother to addiction, and all of that. What would you say? I know other than just the Lord keeping you, because I hear it in your voice, and that's why I even reached out to you, because I knew about your passion for the Lord and the Lord's people. But what kept your marriage from breaking under the weight of all of those storms? Because we talked about it, we all, life is just like that. It's going to be lifing, and we're going to have these storms. But what is that we could do practical? What did you do that was practical to keep your marriage from breaking under the storms of all of that?
The first thing I have to go back to, and this is doesn't even really need to be said, but I think it does. The one thing that kept us from breaking was love.
Mm.
Understanding the love, going back to the moment I first, man, the first time we ever said I love you, remembering those moments, how
When
scared we were to say,
you
how scared we were to even say those words. The first kiss we ever had. Those moments, those moments, remembering the love, the why, that was number one. I think another thing for us, like I mentioned, serving, that was a big one that took us to a whole nother level. But then I don't think that people really like this one. Um, People don't really want to discuss this one, but it's the grit that you have to have in a marriage. There are times where she aggravates me to no end. And listen, there are times as a man where I aggravate her to no end. Listen, it happened this morning. You know what I mean? It's like I aggravate her, and she gets frustrated, and me and my youngest daughter, she just turned 8. We're so much alike, man. And it aggravates her, and we can get under her skin just picking, but it's some of those where, man, you just got to have grit. Another one, stop taking it so serious. Stop taking everything as an attack. Stop taking everything from first line of defense, your defense mechanism. Um,
Mhm.
Man, loosen up. Men, get playful again. Remember your like staying going to youth ministry really helped me,
Mm-hmm.
find my youth again and
Uh-huh.
heal in so many ways from when I was young and different things. So I just want to say, stop taking it so serious. Remember your why, your love. Serve, get plugged in. Go to the word, praying together, man. Oh my gosh, that's huge. Truly believe that a marriage that can pray together stays together. That's a monumental thing. But for you may be so far from that right now, where it's like, I just want to tell you, grab some grit. Grab some
Grits.
grit.
Grab some grits.
Grab some grit, and remember, say, hey, this is a covenant. This is something I'm not turning from. I'm not turning from. I love her. I love him. And
Mhm.
go for it. Have fun. Live your life, man. Live it to the full. Um, don't take everything so serious. I hope I'm making sense here.
Yeah, it
You
does.
are
It does.
definitely making sense. Yes.
Definitely. But let me tell you this, it reminds me, I was in Greece last year, and I was there for a speaking event, me and my daughter. And while we were sitting in the restaurant, I think she had gone to go and do some water activities with another friend that had went with us. And so I was just sitting there at the table, and these guys walked up. It was three guys. And one of them, I think they were on a trip because one of the guys was going to get married. And I said, "Oh, that's wonderful! And I said, congratulations!" And I said, "Me and my husband, we just at that time we just celebrated 40 years." And he said, "Well, oh wow, that's a long time. You got any words of advice?" I said, "Yes, I do." I say, "When you, how did I put it?" I said, you're gonna want to kill her, and
Yeah.
she's gonna want to kill you,
Right. Right.
but you guys can work through that. That's just
That's it.
common. She's gonna
That
get
is.
on your nerves. You gonna get on her nerves, and you're gonna be like, this is not the person I thought I married.
Yep.
What
Yep.
is wrong with this person? I said, but just you can get to the other side. So I love the
Yeah.
fact that you said don't take everything so serious. As women, and Pata can speak to this. We would have our monthly, and I would be so moody and stuff, and I might be snapping at my husband or the kids or whatever. And I just had to kind of, let him know. He's like, did I? Maybe I'm in just a mood. Maybe I'm not even snapping. I'm thinking of one instance in particular. Did I do something wrong? Are you okay? Whatever. Oh, it's not you, baby. I'm on my cycle.
Yeah. 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 You just had to being
you know,
open,
you know,
and that's yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
and
but
that's, I think, the communication part of it, of
yeah,
saying, not taking it for granted that they know, of, like you said, being communicative, being playful.
you're right.
Mhm.
Him just
And I
asking,
love it, the
like,
grit. I love the grit. You
Yeah.
spoke. I
Yeah.
hope our listeners get that. You got to get some grit in
You
your
got
marriage.
yep.
You
Yep.
got to get some
Yep.
grit.
Yes.
There's a grit.
absolutely. So,
And
Pat,
I was thinking too, as a health and wellness coach, how, I always like to explore how emotional and physical health affect a marriage. We've talked a lot
Mhm.
about emotional things. How does your physical health play into that? Because everything is connected. How does the physical health, in addition to the emotional health, play
It's
into your marriage, especially during the hard seasons?
yeah. Yeah. It's so important. Having an outlet.
Mhm.
I love working out. I just got
Okay.
done. I just got back from the gym.
Okay.
That is a release for me. That
Mm-hmm.
is the ability to go tune everything out or tune into something I want to listen to, maybe on my podcast, maybe a message, maybe whatever it might be. Maybe music or whatever, and just let go, just me in that room doing what I can do in that moment. It's so important. Your walls may be caving in on you right now. You may be
Mm-hmm.
struggling financially. There may
Mm-hmm.
be something, a monkey on your back so big that you can't fix that right now. But one thing you can control right? Is your body moving in that gym and doing, getting out, whatever you can physically do. Okay. There are some people with different, you, you, you know, um,
Mhm.
situations and health.
Right. Whatever you can
Whatever
move,
you
get it
can do,
moving.
there are
Yeah.
things that you can do in the physical. There are things that you can do in the spiritual that will help you in the mental when
Mhm.
everything else is caving in on you. And so it's vital. I'm going to tell you, the alcohol right now, I would never tell a man, I would never tell a woman what they can and can't drink. I'm telling you
Mhm.
what it does to me. I'm telling you what it did to my psyche. I'm telling you what it did
Mhm.
to my health, my belly, my being. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm telling you what it does to me. What all of that food, what of that. So the mental, the health, the wealth, all of that goes hand in hand. And so I just say, what can you do to keep showing up? All right. You want to be fit for the long haul. I want to be
Mhm.
fit for my wife. I mean, anything can happen. But man, I got a beautiful picture of us in a cabin one day, grown old, and just go to sleep on a Saturday, and the fire's burning. We're warm, and you just don't wake up on a Sunday morning, and it's like a beautiful picture,
Right.
but don't know what's gonna happen. But
Right.
I want to do my part. So
Right.
so
So
my
you have
my
to
That
health,
part.
control what you
We
can
got to do our
control.
part.
that.
Control what you can control, the things that you can control, and you need that physical release,
Yes.
and you take care of that. What about, you and your wife do anything physical other than
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So,
other than sex? Like,
actually,
do you find that important if you have a physical activity together other than being intimate,
yeah.
walking or whatever? Does that work for your marriage, or how does that work, or why is
Yes.
that important?
So we've got a nice neighborhood, great area near the lake, and we go walking. We hop on bikes. We've got
Okay.
bicycles. Our whole family
Okay.
will hop on bikes,
Okay.
and we'll just go on a bike ride. Right now, my youngest daughter's down. She hurt her ankle, so it's all
Mhm.
booted
Mhm.
up. But
Mhm.
but when we're firing on all cylinders, man, me and my wife and we go walking all the time.
Okay.
Me and my wife and kids, we hop on bikes, and we might go to the park.
Mhm.
Whenever we're traveling, man, my
Mhm.
wife gets us into so many crazy predicaments on these trails we've never been at, and we get lost 5 miles deep, trying to mad at each other, trying to. I can't believe you got me into this. We do all those things, all those things.
Oh, great, great,
Yes,
I
great.
love it. I love
Yes,
it.
yes,
yes. And that's also great too, because you're working out things between you and your wife, but you're also setting an example for your children. And I know one thing about me and my husband is, like, let's give our kids something that we didn't have. Like, a sound marriage, a stable home. Nothing's perfect, but to strive for that, to give your kids the best you that you could possibly give.
amen,
Yeah.
amen.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. Well, I'll ask this question here. If you could give one message to couples who feel worn down by life right now, what would you say about building a love that lasts?
I would, I would have to say, keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Don't you slow down. Don't you stop. Lean in. Lean into one another. Be a fireman. The house is on fire sometimes. The flames are coming. It's hot in the kitchen, but be a fireman. Look for ways to extinguish that fire.
Mm.
Look for ways to put it out. Be open, be open. Understand we want the same thing. How can we extinguish the fire before the house burns down?
So you're saying
Like,
don't leave your burning house. Stay in your
right.
house and extinguish
Yes.
it. Just don't leave, right?
Don't leave. I've started a new practice where I write down at night, right beside my bed is a journal. And
Mhm.
all I do is I write down 3 bullet points, 3 little things I'm grateful for that happened today. And I just write 3 little bullet points, and it has been transformational in parenting. It's been transformational in my marriage. It's been transformation. transformational and in my workplace. Be grateful. Be grateful. Not stop being so claws out all the time. Just remember your why and be grateful for the day the Lord has made.
I love
Yes,
it.
that
Yes.
gratitude piece is so important. Well, um, I'm gonna just say this: if a couple wanted to strengthen their connection tonight, what what's one question that they should ask each other?
If they wanted to strengthen their marriage tonight, what's one
Mhm.
question? I think a lot of people are not clear on what they want. So I would say, what is it that you want? I think if we will ask that question to each other, I think we can then form some family values, okay? If this is what you want and this is what I want, then we can plan out some family values, some non-negotiable things that this is how we're going to love one another. And then reevaluate those family values every 5 years. How are we doing? How are we going? How are things or every year even? Because those things are going to shift and change and wane as we get older. Me and my wife, we have our family values framed. And it's just one of those, you need to know what you want. And then if I could throw two in there,
Okay, give it to
one
us.
is, yeah, and one is what do you want? And number two, where are we going? And just sort of a plan, a path forward for the next 5 years of some things we'd like to achieve together. I think if we'll do ask each other those couple of questions, it'll open up a whole world to our marriage.
And
Wow.
I think that's important. I also do financial stewardship counseling at my church, and that's one of the things that I recommend is that was so impactful for me and my husband as he was getting close to retirement and stuff like that. I was like, well, what do you want retirement to look like for you financially? And then we need to work backwards to that. And when he's maybe not thinking about because he's a spender, I'm a saver. So so if he's spending and I feel like okay, I need to say something to help, not in a nagging way, but you remember what you said you wanted retirement to look like? Is that is that going to lead to that picture that you have of it or away from it? And we got to be honest with ourselves. If that's really what you say you want, then let's take a look at it. You can do what you want to do. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but that's I don't think that's gonna lead you to where you say you're trying to go. And I'm just bringing it out to you. So
Yes.
we'll do that. But so Dustin, thank you for reminding us that love doesn't disappear during the storms, because I feel like that's been a recurring theme for us here. That you loved your wife, you loved your family, and you wanted your marriage to last no matter how many storms were coming, and that you were in it for the long haul. And I think
Yes,
it
Miss.
deepens when couples support each other emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So, Dustin, I want to say thank you. Patty, your bag, you had dropped off, so I was telling him, thank you.
Yes, the wind.
Did you have anything lasting, that a last thing that
No,
you wanted
I
to
just
say?
again, Dustin, thank you so much for being open. You dropped so many nuggets for our listeners. And just stay encouraged and continue to what you're doing, pouring into your family and pouring into others. Just much appreciated. Thank you.
Well,
I
ladies,
love it.
thank you so much for having me. This conversation was a joy. It was a pleasure. And I hope to the listener, thank you for listening to this episode. And again, it was an honor. Thank you for having me.
All right, Justin. I don't know if you have anything that you're offering or anything. Do you have a
Sure.
book? Do you have a
Yeah.
podcast? You got a social media handle or something like that where people can follow you?
Yes. So I've written 2 books. One is Courage and Redemption, the 6 battle principles from the story of Joshua. You can find all of these on Amazon. Another one was Heart Ablaze, the new believer's journey to seeking the heart of God. You could find those both on Amazon. My Instagram handle is Dustin underscore Rivenbark, Rivenbark. You could find me on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok. If you're interested in, speaking or anything like that, you could find me at dustinrivenbark.com. So, hope to see you guys around.
All right.
Thank you again, Justin. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your yes.
Yes.
Your honesty, your faith, and your courage have just been so heartwarming. And to our listeners, remember this, that lasting love isn't built in perfect seasons. It's built when you choose each other in the imperfect ones. Thank you for joining us on the Stronger, Deeper Marriage Show. Until next time, keep building a stronger and deeper marriage. Bye bye.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Let me,
All right. Got through that one.
okay, hold on. Let me stop the recording.